the nuances are followed, and that's exactly what we have in mind now. Hi guys, I was doing a demo run, and now we are live. So this is Suresh, Menon, Value Additions. Another episode of our Value Additions. We had a technical glitch at 2:30. We had a technical glitch at 2:59, and that's the fun of it all. The new normal, and so-called changes are so very pronounced. Out of the game, right?
So, Bala, thank you for holding the fort. So suddenly what happened is, as usually happens, you do 3, 2, and 1 is gone. So it's like, what happened? What happened to 1? So suddenly the connection drops. But so fortunately we are still back and we are on. So yes, welcome everyone to another edition of our Value Additions. And Suresh is again dressed to kill. Suresh, what is it? With the jacket and everything. New normal. Don't miss what's in his pocket. He's got a matching scarf and everything. Too much. That's it. What's the occasion? Tell me what.
I'll tell you. The occasion is. No, Sandeep. The occasion is. I never ever thought that legal risk mitigation can be told in such a light vein, and it's never been so relevant like now. So I think this is an occasion to dress for.
Wow. Okay, cool.
I've written, guys. Okay, let me introduce Sandeep.
I'll buy that story. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Thank you. So let me introduce Sandeep. Sandeep doesn't want to get introduced. So I will not tell that he's a qualified chartered accountant. I will not say he's a technocrat. I will not say he's a media guru. I will not say he's a Rotarian. I will not say he's a business strategist. I will not say that he is a digital media strategist who takes strategies to execution. I will not say any of those. I will not introduce Sandeep Ohri, Rotarian Sandeep Ohri. Sandeep, happy?
Yeah. You did your thing anyway. Okay, so
correct. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for joining. And okay, guys, you can see the small scroll at the bottom. So please say hi if you're watching, and you can also say other things other than hi. Preferably nice things. So if you say nice things, we'll also feel nice, and we'll also remember that you said the nice things. You know what I mean? So when you come to talk to us, we'll remember that you were the guys who said the nice things. Okay. So please be nice to us. We're trying to do our best here. Okay, Suresh, please tell us what is it about. Suresh, I'm not introducing you. Okay, this is our third program now, and this is the Value Additions page. If they don't know who you are, then they need to Google. And the Google, and you'll be right there at the top of the list. As the big shot, as the guy who, what I like about Suresh in his company is what he does is he helps companies not only just to grow sales, but he helps them to predict the growth. Now that is not what everybody does. Okay, it's not easy. So you have to be damn sure of yourself if you're going to tell your customer that I am going to predict for you, okay, what your growth is going to be like. Okay, so that's a big plus. Okay, so that's what Suresh does. Yeah. Okay, so Suresh, okay, friends, welcome to the Mutual Admiration Society. Okay, so he talks nice things about me, and I say nice things about him. But okay, we have actually an even nicer person on the show today. So Suresh, why don't you tell us about Bala, and then maybe we shall get him online.
Yes. So we have the unassuming, absolutely steeped in the subject matter, the expert, the Letician, low profile, Balakrishnan A. We will call him Bala Sir. Sandeep actually thought Bala Sir is one word. For me, it was Bala and Sir. Sandeep realized later on it is not Bala Sir one word, it's two words. So Sandeep will call him Bala, I will call him Bala Sir. It's the night to do.
And let's get him online. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Hello, Mr. Balakrishnan A. Yes, sir. Super. Bala Sir, as Suresh calls you. But you're Bala to me, so that's good. And there's a recent song, I'll not get into it because then it'll keep buzzing in our heads. Yeah, but anyway, Suresh, please formally introduce Mr. Balakrishnan.
Yes. So thank you, Mr. Balakrishnan, Bala Sir, 35-year-old in the profession, qualified chartered accountant and a corporate lawyer, a chartered accountant who doesn't practice, a lawyer who doesn't go to the court. What does he do? 35 years in counting. Whether it's multinationals, Indian large companies, whether it is SMEs, is adding value in real terms in terms of corporate governance. There's been no better time than now that corporate governance, that enterprise governance is so relevant in the boardrooms, whether it's a 2-member partnership firm or a 20-member boardroom. That's what Bala Sir is all about. CA and advocate Balakrishnan A talking about risk mitigation in the legal framework. I never thought in my life I would be sandwiched between two qualified chartered accountants. and one a competent corporate lawyer, other a competent technologist guy, and you can understand how confident I am to pull this off. I mean, full marks to me. Jokes apart, I never, I never ever thought that legality can be told in this form because, and this is where I stop. That now earlier legality was supposed to be something which was to be done. देखेंगे, कर लेंगे legality, but it just to stop damages from happening. But you know what? Today's legality is about fostering business growth because everything is changed so much, right? From partnership deeds, right? From shareholders agreement, right? From the way we look at business with customers, everything is changed so much that legality and legal documentation is never now no more a luxury. It's a necessity, like having a key to open a lock to the office. With that explanation in a laymannish manner, it's my pleasure to request Sandeep to formally open the door for today's talk show. Over to you, Sandeep.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Suresh, and welcome once again, Balakrishnan. So, Bala, this is something which not very many of us have thought about. Typically what happens is when people get together and they get motivated and, either they're solving a problem or they found a great product that they can bring to the market. What happens is they just turn around and, and a few people get together, form a company. So the partnerships that get formed like this, they start with a mission in mind. They start with a passion, they start with a mission, and and everybody is focused on getting things right. We really miss the point that things need to be formalized even legally, between partners, between co-founders, between shareholders. And what happens is when you run the course, and we've noticed this and we've seen this happen to people. When you run the course, sometimes it comes back to bite you later, and this is a very important topic, and I'm very glad that, we are going to be sharing this with everybody else also in terms of making sure that when people get together, to come together to solve a problem or, for their passion or for a mission, to make sure that, you always take care of the paperwork. So from that perspective, thank you for being with us, Bala, and I will now hand it over to you to take it on. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So, happy good afternoon to all of you. Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Sandeep, for this very illustrative and for your kind introduction. I'm thankful for the invitation to be part of this program. Thank you, viewers, for being present here today, Saturday afternoon. So today we are going to talk on a subject which is actually become even more relevant. It was always relevant, but even more relevant with completely unprecedented development like COVID-19. The important point, I need to get this discussion started with one very specific question. What is that question? The question is, in fact, one subject which is of great research is what are the causes of business failure. We have, if you look at the world, if you look at India per se, we have huge number of business failures which have contributed to NPA situation. NPA is huge amount of doubtful and assets with banks and financial institutions, which is now not letting them to lend because they don't have resources. So failure, business failure is our subject. Now, amongst top 5 reasons for business failure, failure to manage legal risk has been considered as one of the predominant reasons for failure of businesses. So today, I am just starting with this business failure to actually emphasize the importance of today's discussion for SME businesses. And I am actually emphasizing because of my being part of advisory for SMEs for many years now. And I have seen, sadly, that legal contract or legal risk is actually very, very trivial subject and does not receive the seriousness that it merits. So today's discussion, I have laid the backdrop, and this is where we are going to actually start. Now, the way I am going to present this today's presentation is, I am going to explain to you what are generally the legal risk which can unfold for a business and which, if not managed, can actually become reason for business failure. This is my subject today. Now,
and Bala sir,
yes.
also in the context that now people are talking of collaboration and cooperation, this becomes even more imperative.
Absolutely true. So, so first discussion is on what are the type of risk. Basically, we are going to have a quick glance at the risk scenario. There are I did 6 major risks that unfold for a SME business, for business in general. But today's discussion is largely targeting the MSMEs and SMEs, who are the people who really need support. So we are talking about SMEs or MSMEs. Now, there are 6 areas of risk. The first and primary area is actually about conflict, how to deal with conflict, or how to ensure that there is no conflict between shareholders, actually. So conflict at the shareholder level, or at the board level, or at the management level. Now, I will give an example. Now, if you take the example of if the head end of the day is stable, then the limbs, the body, everything is stable. Otherwise, the limbs are wobbling and a person is likely to lose his balance. Business, this analogy I have explained only to highlight the importance of stability for a business. Now, this is the first risk, lack of management of the conflict between shareholders. The next is lack of proper agreement with respect to key employees. Now, I want to explain to you what it means. Now, if you see businesses which are SME businesses started by maybe 2 entrepreneurs, one is an expert in operation and technology, the other person is an expert in marketing, and they have built a business. They have founded a business. 3 years down the line, the business is all of a sudden growing. So they find the need for key employees. They find the need for resources at a senior level who can actually steer the team. When it comes to that point, then they hire somebody, a senior person, but they issue a normal appointment letter. But over a period, he actually becomes a quasi-owner. In the sense, he also is vested with all the power that a normal partner is actually vested with. So he has access to secret, he has access to technology, he has access to everything, he has access to customer. He is the first point person for customer. And what happens is, after 2 years, 3 years, an MNC comes to hire, and that MNC actually try to give him an offer, and this person leaves the company in the absence of any contract. And secondly, there is a threat. Many businesses have failed largely because this person, who is the key employee, left the company and carried secrets, carried information about clients, and the company could not do anything. So key employee is the second type of risk, which is very, very important risk, which is not so much paid attention to. The third aspect is the contracts with customers and suppliers. Invariably, SMEs in their growth become excited when they find a customer who finds value for their goods or services. And then in this excitement, they overlook everything, and out of fear as well. And some customers over 2-3 years become so important, and so many things are overlooked. And a day comes when a competitor arrives in the scene, and then this target key customer shifts to that other client, and that leaves huge amount of inventory on our side. I'm actually taking examples, actual examples of what we have seen in companies where I've been advising. So I'm talking about examples like that. So a company which was left with inventory more than 1 crore rupees, and largely because of some event which could have been controlled by legal documentation. Now, so one is at the customer level, contracts, very important. The other one is at the supplier level, contracts are required, particularly companies which do job working, etc., etc. This is normally given very, very trivial importance. A simple purchase order is issued, and there is nothing very clear on whether quality or quantity or description or terms or reworking. So many aspects are missed out. And when a crisis arrives on the scene, then there is a difference, and the difference leads to a conflict, and that conflict results in loss, and that loss results in business failure. So the contract on the customer side and supplier side have to be emphasized. The next aspect I want to cover is the subject of dealer appointment of dealer, channel partner, and franchising. Now, dealer appointments are also reduced to format, paper, 2-3 papers, basically largely agreement, a summary agreement is created, downloaded from internet, no care or attention given to the clauses which are very important. And there are dealers, etc. appointed. And what actually we have seen in the past is these dealers come on board and without clarity. For example, I want to give an example here. One client who was in a footwear industry appointed a distributor, and the distributor and the principal, both parties, did not enter into an agreement where the territory was very clear. Business grew in 5 years, where the inventory itself was 2 crores, which was actually maintained by the distributor. And at some stage, there is a new distributor brought on in the scene, and who is entrusted with a sub-territory within that. So this causes a serious predicament for the distributor, who is actually having huge amount of inventory. So both sides, dealership agreements are very, very important. The other aspect is franchisee. We have cases of for example, I want to bring in an example of a client who was in a confectionery industry, 25 years. They have 50 or more retail outlets, and they wanted to get into franchising. Did 5 franchise formats, 5 in 3 years' time. And in the 4th year, everything collapsed. The reason why it collapsed is when they got into this franchise, they only thought of branding, they thought of the form, they thought of presentation, etc., etc. Nobody thought of the legal aspect, the legal risk. And what happened is, in 3 years' time, at least 4 or 5 of them virtually started trading in other brands. They started in conflicting actions, which completely eroded the brand, the original brand of the client brand of the confectionery. So this is one very example which can highlight the seriousness of this, what I'm mentioning about. So can you show me the slide, the next, please? Sandeep, can you show me this? Yeah. So, yeah. So the next is about financial creditors. Financial creditor largely is monies that you raise from investors. For example, I can give you an example. Now, when the money is raised, there is so much enthusiasm on the part of the borrower, borrowing company, that documentation, contract, etc. is given last priority, because the man receiving the money is in a hurry to receive money, and the man paying the money is inserting so many aspects into that, or keeping so many aspects away from the document. And after 2 years, when there was an adversity in our client side, that financial creditor started invoking very, very unreasonable stipulations, which actually resulted in virtual business failure. The last item on the legal risk which I want to highlight is primarily about this branding, and you are aware that there is something called private labeling. For example, you have the technology, you have the brand, you are expecting somebody else to manufacture in that brand and in that particular packing and whatever you define. And we have the case. There are many cases, but I am mentioning about one particular case where within 2 years there was no documentation at all. Proper documentation did not exist, because of which in the 3rd year there was a dispute because royalty was not coming in time, and there were some type of misrepresentation on the part of the job worker, the man who is manufacturing and supplying. So, friends, these 6 areas of risk are not just, there can be many more, but they are actually the critical, very important facets of risk which need to be managed, which need to be mitigated by an SME business in order to avoid failure.
Thank you, Bala sir, for an absolute coverage of these points. Sandeep, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so a lot of we've seen a lot of these companies, go down the wrong route when things go awry between partners, co-founders, shareholders. So tell us something, Bala, about how, in terms of how do you actually manage these risks? It's good to know that okay, these issues are there, but then what is your recommendation in terms of what is it that we need to do about this?
Yeah. See, one primary aspect which perhaps is not represented entirely in a slide, since I just wanted to quickly answer your question, is that what is important for a business, SME business, is from their inception, from the time they start, they must have an awareness. Today, there is a very low level of awareness. So, legal aspects, बाद में हम लोग cover करेंगे. अभी it is not relevant. Something like that. So, one is the awareness. Awareness is very important. The second is, irrespective of the size, it may be 2-man company or 20 people company, there must be a defined legal process. In that legal process, there will be a part which is called due diligence. Basically, doing a diligence of the person with whom you are entering into a commitment. So, whether it be key employee, whether it be customer, whether it be supplier, whether it be dealer, distributor, etc. So, a culture evolves in the business, right?
Right.
So, and the last point on to just answer your question is that is it enough? A question is very often asked: is it enough to have an agreement? Answer is no. What is required is to have an internal policy written which will align with this agreement, so that every action, every unit of action conforms to this understanding. This is the second lacking in SME businesses, MSME businesses. Somewhere documentation is done, but there are no policies which ensure checks and balances so that transactions are also complying, also conforming to these agreements. So this is the way to go, Sandeep.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So coming back to what we were talking about in terms of how do we actually manage this. So this is a slide that you had given us, and we'd be very happy if you could tell us a little more about this. How do we manage the conflict? We'll need to speed it up a little in terms of time. So so that's something that.
And also, Bala sir, before you say this, I just come to know that the basic human simplistic, like honesty is the best policy, is a simple way of looking at life. Clearly, transparency and having everything out there is so much crucial in business today that nobody's going to benefit by hiding things from each other. And all the more reason today. So that simplicity is what probably will get manifested in the next slide that you're going to rush through.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks, Balas.
So today we are going to talk out of these risks. We are actually focusing on one facet, and that is conflict between shareholders. How risk can be mitigated, and what are the type of conflicts that happen at the shareholder level. This is our discussion today. The next slide. Now, since Sandeep has indicated to me the time is limited, so I will quickly cover the 8 important points which are conflict areas, conflict zones in a shareholder type of a relationship in a business. If these 8 areas are managed, that business will be stable, the head will be stable, and that business will grow from growth to the next level. The first and foremost is conflicts happen in shareholding structure. Businesses are formed by individuals. Some of them are, most of them at least, are first generation. So 50-50, they start with some shareholding structure. But a short time or a year or 2 years later, many things change, everything change, and the roles, etc. change. And then in the absence of an agreement, a different start, and then that leads to conflict. The second aspect on which there is conflict is what we say roles and responsibilities. Invariably, roles and responsibilities are not clear at all. That is completely ambiguous in most SME businesses as between the co-founders or the partners. There is no full clarity on that. So what happens is, as businesses evolve, new challenges unfold, partners are required or founders are required to on different roles. At that time, there is in the absence of a documentation, the absence of a covenant, that results in a difference which cannot be resolved because there is no documentation. There is nothing clear between them. Back to the slide. So the third aspect, Sandeep, back to the slide, please. The third aspect is guarantees and collaterals. Now, the point is, both the partners at the end of the day may not have the equal amount of financial resource. So when a crisis came in the third year, one partner came actually with a collateral property. In the 5th year, what actually happened is when adversity hit, the bank sent notice only to one of them whose collateral is there in the business. And then the conflict started. So during a bad time, they are not resolving, they are not working together, but they are conflicting with each other. The fourth point is contribution versus compensation. So in the absence of a documentation, partners sometimes have a serious issue of always looking at measuring every 3 months, once in a way, that I am contributing more, you are contributing less, you are getting equal salary. So this type of conflict we have seen, which has resulted in breakdown of businesses. I'm sorry to say. Back to slide, please. So managing conflict and business direction is the other aspect. Business direction, I talk about a business which was our client in Pune, who 3 years time, these two partners painstakingly built a product which was very successful in the 3rd year, and they actually were in the verge of separation only because they could not agree on a common direction. One person wanted to carry to one part of India, other person wanted to focus on another part of India. So this is there is no agreement on common direction. Funding aspect, entry of financial investors actually create a problem. Sometimes the dynamics between the partners get upset. Non-performing director, non-performing founder is another big challenge. Over 5 years, 7 years, one partner loses interest. How do you deal with him if there is no documentation? So this leads to a lot of problems. The last one is conflict at the time of exit. And this is the worst type of conflict, largely because a company, 25 years, 3 partners built a business, and 2 out of the 3 persons had already attained the age of almost 60 years. They wanted to exit the business. And when an MNC came and offered them a huge valuation, they sat on that for 2 months because they could not agree on the exit. And end of the day, that MNC came into India and set up a joint venture, and everything was lost. Everything, because 3 years MNC took the market share. So what happened is, just because of shareholder agreement, just because of the right covenant, they actually missed the wealth creation part of their entire life. So this is the importance, friends. So I think the explanation of this slide, we can come to
very true. Balakrishnan. Superb. Yes.
So yes, of course, we've seen a lot of companies, break down, so to speak, because of this, paperwork not being in place, or an understanding. Does not always have to be legally. But what is your advice to, to companies and to partners and to founders who have actually figured out that yes, okay, so these issues are there. So how do we fix it? So I believe you have something in terms of what we can do to fix it.
Yes. See, the point. One thing is, the best time to start is now. Perhaps just after today's session, somebody would want to go about the structuring the shareholder agreement. The sooner the better. This is what I put in the slide. Sooner the better. Get on immediately with formulating a shareholder agreement. Prevention better than cure. First point. The second is, if you delay, matters are likely to become more complex. The third aspect is, entrepreneurs have to understand that they are moving from a non-business relationship to a business relationship. So approaches are very, very important. Now, people ask us, what is the way to start? Where do I start? The best way to start is send out a draft document to your co-partners immediately. And then discussion start, engagement start, and then confrontation start. But ultimately, a productive result will come out of that. And last, of course, I already mentioned about the importance of contract internal policy, so I'm not re-emphasize it. And the last is set a timeline. Because why set a timeline? Because we have seen co-founder agreement documentation takes protracted period of time because people don't sit and confront each other on sensitive points. They don't want to discuss it. So set a timeline, a start point and an end point. And then once you put this documentation and this part behind your at your back, then your organization will progress, because cohesively 2 shareholders or 3 shareholders are going to work cogently, coherently towards a common goal or objective.
So thank you, Bala sir. 29 minutes and 35 seconds into the show, and this professional tips which you have given are going to be so relevant that when today post-lockdown, and the post-lockdown probably is not the right word to use, because lockdown mindset will continue forever. Up from the key and the lock required to open an office, apart from the prevention of occupational health and safety. What's important now is also to get those agreements in place, as important as everything else, because times are changed. It's become so relevant to make it very clear. And with that, Sandeep, you want to ask Bala sir, what's the gift on hand for our viewers?
So I have already put on the switched on the banner for the email ID. So that's our email ID, and I understand that Bala will be happy to provide some kind of assistance. So Bala, why don't you tell us exactly what it is, so viewers can email us.
Yeah. So our wholehearted gift to our viewers today is that we are actually willing to provide document review support for our clients, for anybody who is part of this viewing experience. They can write to us. The email ID is written below, and we will, our team, backend team, will ensure that we review the documents sent to us, and we will give our recommendations to all the prospect people who are going to send to us. That is our assurance.
Thanks.
Okay, so guys, he's not going to make the document for you. Okay, he's only going to review the document. So please do not send emails saying, here is the document, please correct it and send it back, because that's not what's going to happen. So yes, he will review it, and of course you will need to get that fixed by your teams, your legal teams, or whoever your advisors are. But he will just definitely be able to review it. But that is Bala. I just also want to know, if somebody does not have a start point, for instance, okay, so I don't have a document, for instance, so I need to have a start point. So what's the start point? I know there are many internet websites which give you these, sample templates, things like that. So do you think it's possible for people to request a sensible, suitable sample template from you? If they send you that email, at least you could give them a good start point, at least, that they can then start working on.
Yes, Sandeep. Sandeep, actually, what we also help entrepreneurs or our clients to get started. Some of them who request us, we send them a checklist. Basically, how it starts is we send first a checklist of today we have presented, as you have seen, 8 points we have presented. So we present a checklist of points on which the team can actually deliberate in their own language, in their own understanding. They can discuss it and then come to us. So that will actually make it more. It will go to the next level little more faster.
Sure. I think that's a good idea. So, so all of those who are watching and you want a start point, at least you can get a checklist of what all needs to be covered, and and then make sure you generate a document which covers at least these points, and then you can send it for a review. Okay, that's great, fantastic, superb. Okay, so I think So Suresh, tell me what's next.
Yes. The final word. Thank you, Bala sir. Thank you, Sandeep. You know what? It comes to my mind as we get to the last few seconds of the show, that what until today was always spoken in silence and hush and under the carpet, the issues of legality and relationship between co-founders, partners and collaborators and all of those things has now become louder, out there, upfront, nothing wrong about it. No, what is it called? No, nothing prejudice, no prejudice about it, just open and frank discussion. And that is so imperative in today's world. Businesses can just evaporate if it's not done. Relationships can evaporate. Lifelong wealth earning can evaporate, like Bala sir gave an instance. So it's so important to look at mitigating risk in a legal manner. And it's so very simple if done now and in a smooth and articulate manner. With that, I take the permission, Sandeep, of closing the show. Thank you very much, Bala sir, for being a sport coming on board. We had 2 technical glitches. We went on live. We did it in 34 minutes and 2 seconds, and we're over and out. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.